welcome to Poetry Perch. I'm Dina. This is my co-host,
Ian.
Today we will be talking about poems written by Shel Silverstein. Would you like to go first, or should I?
I think you should really start us out.
All right,
Dina.
all right.
You have a good knowledge of this author. This poet, I think that he is just absolutely mesmerizing, and I think that you can give us a great start out to that.
He's definitely a classic. Everyone's heard a few of his poems once or twice. I'm reading from Where the Sidewalk Ends.
A classic.
Yeah, that's one of his most famous. And the first poem I'm going to read for us today is called The Loser.
All right.
Mama said I'd lose my head if it wasn't fastened on. I guess today it wasn't, 'cause while playing with my cousin, it fell off and rolled away, and now it's gone. And I can't look for it 'cause my eyes are in it. And I can't call to it 'cause my mouth is in it. I couldn't hear it anyway because my ears are on it. I can't even think about it 'cause my brain is in it. So I guess I'll sit down on this rock for at least a minute. I feel like things are pretty frantic right now with everyone and everything.
Absolutely.
You know, things are a little wonky, and we all feel like we could lose our heads sometimes.
All the time.
And I felt like this was a nice one to start off on for our purposes.
I mean, of course, there's the symbolism there. You're losing your head. You're going loony, and this is a crisis. But there's also just this whimsical surrealism to it, and there's this matter-of-factness that I love about Shel Silverstein. He's fantastical, but he works within the context of the reality that he creates.
Of course.
So, of course you can't look for your head because your eyes are in it. You can't see without your eyes.
It's literally impossible.
And he builds up upon that. I can't think about it because my brain's in it. It's just absolutely incredible. You can picture it so clearly.
That's something that Shel Silverstein has always done very well, is he's very good at figuring out visuals and making sure that you can see it in your head.
Absolutely.
That's, I think, his biggest strong suit.
I agree. And that's something that I think a lot of poets of today, poets of America, poets of the world, you want to focus on that imagery. Because poetry is an emotive experience. It's something that you want to feel, not just read. And I felt that poem. I felt him lose his head.
For sure.
Absolutely.
Would you like to read one, or should I send it to some of our guests?
I think I'd like to top that off. Give a read of my own. Now this here is a tad bit shorter. It's About the Bloat, and this is from another collection of Shel Silverstein, actually his first poetry collection, Don't Bump the Glump, and that's other fantasies too. So there's a theme going on in this book, and it's about a variety of wild, exotic, fantastical creatures. It's something right out of a myth, and I think that that's incredible. Now, I'm just going to read straight into About the Bloath here.
Go for it.
In the undergrowth, there dwells the Bloath who feeds on poets and tea. Luckily, I know this about him, while he knows almost nothing of me. So obviously a much shorter poem, but I really, really like this image of this big, hulking, yet somewhat lax and languid Bloath. What is it, like a big hog? You picture it in your head. And, of course, we do talk about imagery a lot with Shel Silverstein, but there's also theming, because Shel Silverstein always has this very ethereal, almost esoteric theming in his work. You can almost grasp what it's getting at, but it's just vague enough where you can add on your own interpretation. It's very personal in that way. So there dwells the Bloath who feeds on poets and tea, while he knows almost nothing of me. Now, obviously, you can draw there's some irony in that, because the person who's writing about the Bloath, he's a poet. Of course he doesn't want the Bloath to know about him, because he's going to be devoured.
No one wants to be... That's something you see a lot in some of Shel Silverstein's poems, is there's a lot of imagery of different animals eating you, and just consuming you whole. And I like that one of the first things in his first poetry book is about something that wants to eat him strictly because he is a poet. While we are on the topic of things eating poets, we're going to send it to Liam of BTV1, who is about to read It's Dark in Here.
Excellent.
I am writing these poems from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here. So please excuse the handwriting, which may not be too clear. But this afternoon, by the lion's cage, I'm afraid I got too near. And he's writing these lines from inside a lion, and it's rather dark in here.
Thank you, Liam, for that. We really appreciate it.
Excellent.
I remember when I was very young, in elementary school,
Right.
they always read us Shel Silverstein when it was a poetry unit, almost exclusively.
He's a very universal poet.
For sure. And I didn't like poetry. I especially didn't like his because it rhymed. And I was very bad at rhyming and
it's okay.
whatever, what have you. But this is one of the few that stuck with me. It's one of the few I remembered, even all these years later. And it took me many, many years, but after trying to write my own poetry and learning more about what poetry really is about, I love it. And sometimes it takes that. Sometimes you have to learn and put effort into finding things out to realize that you like something and realize that that's good for you.
That's the thing to remember about poetry. It's a bit like a big brick wall. You can't just go hang straight in and eat it all in one piece. No, you have to climb that. You need to slowly but surely make your way up that vertical precipice. It's hard. It's very hard. But once you're in there and you can examine the intricacy of poetry, the artistry that's in there, it's worth it.
For sure.
It's absolutely worth it. I guess you could say it's kind of a learning curve.
Yeah.
It's like that. You need to immerse yourself in poetry first. But if there's one poet that knows how to do that for all ages, it is Shel Silverstein.
When you think about poetry, he's one of the first people I find that comes to mind.
Absolutely.
Again, because he's taught so heavily in elementary schools. This is a lot of the only thing that people get exposure to. And when we decided to do this episode, I was like, oh, this will be fun. This will resonate with a lot of people. And as I kept reading, I kept finding, wow, this guy does a lot of deeper stuff.
He does.
And some of it is just real strong,
It is.
And you don't really expect that at first. It's just, if you just remember the silly things like being eaten by a lion, then you aren't going to think about the real undertones of all the things that you're reading unless you go and revisit it later on,
Absolutely. Like I could, not to center it back on about the blows, but of course there is the simple irony in there.
Yeah.
There's the poetry, but there could be a message there about environmentalism. We know everything about the blows, but he knows nothing about us.
All right, we're going to send it to commercial break. We'll be right back with Poetry Perch.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies. Selfie, nailed it.
We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
Hi, welcome back to Poetry Perch. Next up, Ian has a poem that he's going to read to us.
Yes. Now, About the Bloath, of course, was a shorter poem in this collection of Shel Silverstein's. But here I want to dive into something a little bit deeper, has a bit more meat on its bones. But I think the message it's going to ring true for a lot of people. It's going to be humorous, but it's going to be deep. And that's going to be a family affair.
Let's hear it.
All right. Oh, the bulbulous Broll is a beast with a soul in a manner serene and sedate, a model of meekness with only one weakness, and that is for eating his mate. Hey ho, a masculine need for his mate. Now the white-breasted bird is a delicate bird with a song that is tenderly sung. She is gentle and shy with a matronly eye and a fondness for eating her young. Hey-ho, a motherly love for her young. The young, gross-bottom grood, he takes milk for his food and goopies and bran for his tummy. And he goos with delight when sometime at night he can swallow his daddy and mummy. Hey-ho, a filial love fills his tummy. And oh, were you here for the wedding, my dear, and the quiet buffet that ensued, when the bulbulous broil would the murd, I am told, and produced a young gross-bottom grood. Hey-ho, a gurgling gross-bottom grood.
That was very insightful to a lot of things.
I think so.
I know personally, I would write poetry when I was upset about a situation, whether that be anger or not, and that was the main place that I would write from for a very long time. And that sounds like something from that place. And unfortunately, that is where poetry goes sometimes. It can't always be happy, just like a lot of life. But, you know, after that, you gotta look at the bright side. And you gotta find that light.
Well, here's the thing I think that Shel Silverstein really does masterfully in A Family Affair, because it's, on a surface level, something very, very nauseating. Mm-hmm. It's a poem about cannibalism, but he dresses it up in such a lighthearted, silly, and interesting way. And I think part of the reason he's able to succeed with that is that he's using these wacky, fantastical creatures. Glumps. What is a glump, Dina?
I mean, I assume it's what's on the cover, but I couldn't tell you, you know?
Exactly. It's nonsensical. A bulbulous broil, I mean, you can come up with imagery from that. I imagine it's big, it's pudgy, it's round, but it's so inhuman. You walk in without any predisposition, without any preconception, and that is great. But you see, The Family Affair, it's about something sordid, but it's not trying to immerse itself in something moody. It knows what it is. It knows that it's a silly, fun poem. But if you want to look deeper, there's material there for you.
Of course.
And there's the irony that you can sink your teeth in. It's Othello with spooky, weird animals.
For sure. All right, I'm going to send it off to our correspondent, Anna. She is reading to us today, Don't Tell Me.
Don't tell me. Please don't tell me I should hug. Don't tell me I should care. Don't tell me how grand I'd feel if I just learned to share. Don't say it's all right to cry. Be kind, be fair, be true. Just let me see you do it. Then I might just do it too.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was very great.
Very great.
So, this poem is a little bit deeper.
It is.
And I felt like it was nice coming after yours when we were still touching on that deep part.
Right.
And really, it's all about, you know, showing instead of telling. Absolutely. You know, you might hear "do as I say, not as I do" from different people in your life, but really, all people, especially young people, do is follow what they see, and it's important to set that good example for those people.
It absolutely is.
And I just think that this is a really good way of putting it. You know, don't say it's okay to do something if you aren't personally okay with doing it. You need to be okay not only with yourself but with your emotions.
I think it's also a poem about empathy. It's a poem about, at the end of the day, you're not going to be in someone's shoes when they are experiencing a crisis.
Of course not.
Sometimes it's all right, just distance yourself. And of course, that's a very deep message for Shel Silverstein. But he's able to communicate that very well because, I know we're repeating ourselves a lot, but it's that very clear imagery. You can imagine the stubborn child saying, no, I don't want to be a part of this.
I do have to agree. I feel a bit like a broken record, keep bringing it up, but it's the thing he does best, and it's the thing you remember about him. You don't remember the exact words, but you remember, again, like that lion, you remember how he can't see and how he's apologizing, and you just see that image in your head.
And it's the same technique that he uses to color very serious and moody poems like what our friend Anna just read, or it could be for something very lighthearted, silly, goofy.
For sure. All right. I have one I would like to read now, and
I
it's
would love to
called
hear it.
For Sale.
For sale.
Yep. One sister for sale, one sister for sale. One crying, spying young sister for sale. I'm really not kidding. So who'll start the bidding? Do I hear $1? A nickel? A penny? Oh, isn't there someone? Anyone? One kid who will buy this old sister for sale. This crying and spying young sister for sale.
Yeah.
I picked this poem because, you know, we all of us who have siblings anyway, we love our siblings.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean we like our siblings.
That is true.
And there have been good amounts of occasions where you wish you could sell your sibling. And I feel like it's one that most everyone could relate to.
Oh, most certainly. I mean, everyone has, you know, their loud and noisy siblings. I like the word that Silverstein was using there. This crying and whining sister, always tugging on your leg, just a big nuisance to everybody, which is a terrible thing to say about a human being, actually.
Of course, but when you think about it, we've all said terrible things to our siblings, but at the end of the day, we still love them and we still care about them. Even if sometimes we wish to sell them, as terrible as that is, you know, and that's okay. You get along with people, you don't get along with people. It's the fact that you make up and you still care about each other at the end of the day that matters.
One thing I should say there, though, is, you know, of course, this boy who's selling his sister, he is the central character of this poem. Silverstein doesn't necessarily paint him in a great light. He's very ambivalent about it, very up to interpretation. And you can look at it as just some fed-up, snotty kid selling his sister. You can look at it as he's being so entitled, he can't deal with someone else having all this attention. I mean, really, we're looking at this from the perspective of an unreliable narrator.
Right.
He is selling his sister. He's trying to market her to us.
Not only is he's selling her for dirt cheap. Like he was offering, you know, he'll take her for a penny. That's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, that's not gonna get you quite anything. Not even a candy bar.
And of course, then it becomes very obvious he's not selling his sister because he wants to gain anything. He's selling his sister because he wants to escape from that situation. He wants to
Right.
get her gone. And
I find it a lot easier to just go to a friend's house for the weekend rather than sell my siblings, personally.
I'm a fan of that as well. Though, of course, I think it is very good to have a positive relationship with your siblings.
course.
I think it is important to note this is something that children try when they are very, very young. We grow up from that.
Right, for sure. All right, we're going to send it to another commercial break. We'll be right back with Poetry Perch.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes now that have just begun under a purple sun. There's many reasons we are what we've become. I'm going through changes now. Things could be different, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Hi, welcome back to Poetry Perch. Perch. Ian, you have a poem you'd like to read real quick?
Yes, we have another shorty here. It's going to be The Gletcher.
Okay.
And following suit, it's going to be another one of these fantastic creatures. I'm excited.
All right, let's hear it.
See the Gletcher in his cage, his claws are sharp, his teeth are double, thank heaven he's locked up safe inside, or we'd all be in terrible trouble.
That again, like you said, that is very short. But I do like, again, how this creature we know nothing about is possibly putting us in danger, and we have to be a little worried about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the thing, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this poem in particular, we've been talking about Shel Silverstein's use of imagery this entire time. Here, he's describing a creature that is indescribable. Here, we don't have any type of inherent bouncy adjectives or consonants that insinuate that it's...
All we know is that it was in a cage, but cages can be any size. But while we're on the topic of fantastical animals putting us in possible mortal danger, we're going to send it to Donnie Wiley with Boa Constrictor.
Lovely.
Boa constrictor. Oh, I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor. A boa constrictor. A boa constrictor. I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor, and I don't like it one bit. Well, what do you know? It's nibbling my toe. Oh, gee, it's up to my knee. Oh, my, it's up to my thigh. Oh, fiddle, it's up to my middle. Oh, heck, it's up to my neck. Oh, dread, it's oomph.
All right, thank you so much, Donnie.
Wonderful.
Boa constrictor, very similar to It's Dark in Here,
Oh, yeah.
is one of the few that I truly remembered from when I was young. But again, I didn't remember these words.
No.
But I remembered, oh, it's on my toe, it's up to my knee, and it progresses so quickly. And I'm being a broken record once again, but these visuals are just, they're immaculate. There's
really
nothing that can really beat them here. You can see the boa constrictor. You know where it is, and even if you don't know exactly what kind of snake a boa constrictor looks like, you still see that snake, and you still see it eating the author.
Absolutely. The jaw unhinging, slowly consuming the body.
Yep.
Now, what really interests me here is what theming are we looking at with the boa constrictor? What is the boa constrictor representing here?
Really, the boa constrictor could represent anything.
It could.
It's quite possible that it's a metaphor for someone who is toxic. It could be a metaphor for society. Maybe his publisher who's been keeping him back from writing what he wants. It could be anything,
It could just be a boa constrictor.
It could just be a boa constrictor,
I mean, honestly, I could see either of those things from
Right.
Shel, because we've demonstrated there is a duality here between the serious, the moody, the rich in theme and tone, and the goofy,
Right.
the fun.
If you're a kid, it's a boa constrictor. But as an adult, you are the author, and anything could be that boa constrictor.
Absolutely. It's easy to picture that consuming feeling. Yep.
All right, well, I have one more poem for us here today.
Ooh, all right.
It is called I Must Remember.
I'm excited.
I must remember. Turkey on Thanksgiving, pudding on Christmas, eggs on Easter, chicken on Sunday, fish on Friday, leftovers on Monday. But me, I'm such a dunce. I went and ate them all at once. All right, well, I picked that poem because here in a few weeks we have Thanksgiving coming up.
That's right.
And I feel like that's a really big thing that happens on Thanksgiving is we tend to overeat. But it's important to remember that food will still all be there tomorrow, and you can have it for lunch.
Absolutely. There's no need to take it all down in one sitting. No need to be a big glutton about it.
Yep.
But one thing that makes me very interested in that poem is I think we've actually seen a recurring theme in all these works. What is up with Shel Silverstein and food? What's up with him and eating a lot of stuff at once, or having an animal eat a lot of stuff at once? It's very mesmerizing.
All right, friends. We'll see you next time on Poetry Perch.
Absolutely.
Remember, snaps, not claps. Thank you.